All right, we are live with Bet What Happens Live. We have pretty crazy game here. The Washington Commanders are leading the Philadelphia Eagles 20-14 at halftime. That's pretty wild. I don't think we were expecting that coming into the game. So, real quick, let me just make sure I get everything sorted out here. And I think we are all set. All right, let's bring up my screen here. We have the Washington Commanders up 6. I'm just trying to pull the live odds here so we can get a live read on the betting market, what the betting market thinks the true odds are for this game. So it looks like we've got minus 160 for the Eagles and plus 130 for the Commanders. So that means it's nearly a coin flip game. The Eagles are still favored to win, which is interesting because we're in this really interesting counterintuitive spot where, we've got Washington leading by, nearly a whole possession. 6 points is a touchdown without the extra point or the 2-point conversion there. So we got Washington leading, but they are only about 40% to win, a little over 40% to win. So we have this really weird counterintuitive spot. So I've highlighted here second half pace splits. Now, we can't really trust Philly's second half pace splits because they've pretty much played the lead for the entire second half all year, right? They're undefeated. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to go with these close game splits. And what I will say is Philadelphia, if they are trailing, while they play fast, they can't really play much faster than they already do in the first half. And Washington is definitely going to lean on the run with the lead. So we could see a case where the under hits here, but Philly is going to start with the ball. So because Philly starts with the ball and Washington is more incentivized to run, I don't want to take a live under right now. I want to look at the live under if Philadelphia does not score on this first possession, then we could look at the live under. If they do score in this first possession, then I think obviously it's either going to be a touchdown or a field goal, make it a close game. Then we don't want to look at the under there. So if Philadelphia does not score on this first possession, we should be looking at a live under because Washington is going to want to drain the clock here. They're going to want to rely on the running game. And it's a whole lot easier to run on the Eagles than it is to pass on the Philadelphia Eagles. Although there has been some success tonight in the air for the Washington Commanders. Heineke 12 of 21 for 145 yards. So if Philadelphia does not score in the first drive, we will be looking to bet the under. All right, so let's come over to player props, and I will try to grab passing yards first, as we always do. And let me just one more check. Yep, okay, we're good on all that. So passing yards, Taylor Heineke's live passing yardage prop is 235.5, and Jalen Hurts is 221.5. So I think this is super interesting. We don't want to really touch Jalen Hurts under because they're going to start with the ball and they're incentivized to pass right now. What we're really looking at is at the end of the game. We still expect Philadelphia to lead. There's a better probability of them leading at the end of the game than of them trailing at the end of the game based on the live odds. So we don't want to touch Hurts right now. But one thing that's very interesting is Taylor Heineke's over. And again, if Philadelphia, for example, were to score here, because Philly starts with the ball, I don't want to do Heineke's over. But if Philadelphia does score, then Heineke's over very much becomes in play. So what I think we have is a nice situation where we have an opportunity where if Philadelphia doesn't score, we take the under. If Philadelphia does score, we want to watch out for Heineke's live over on his passing yards, especially if Philly scores a field goal because Washington will be ahead. Then the books will still probably not have adjusted enough. Now, if Philadelphia scores a touchdown, it's likely that the books will adjust enough. So we're in a situation here where we actually could just, bet Heineke's over right now. But I think the play, because we have a good play if Philly doesn't score and a good play if Philly does score, is to just wait on both of those. Now, that doesn't mean we're not betting anything necessarily. We want to take a look at everything here. So because we see some value on the overs for the receiving yardage for Washington, the passing yards for Washington, let's look at the receivers' receiving yardage to see where we may want to find that value the most. So as I go through here, we have Logan Thomas at 17.5, Devontae Smith for the Eagles, 62.5. Now, remember, he did come out briefly for that injury, so we have to make sure he's still 100%. Dallas Goedert, 33.5. We have McLaurin, who's had a monster game so far, at 95.5. Jahan Dotson, 21.5. Curtis Samuel, 38.5. Quez Watkins, 10.5. AJ Brown, 42.5. And let's see. Bates, we have at half a yard. Interesting. Half a yard for Bates. So will he get a catch or not, basically? And will it be for not negative yards? All right. So looking at the receiving yards, pretty fair value here. If anything, we're showing overs on the Washington Commanders receivers, especially Samuel and McLaurin, but also Jahan Dotson. I actually don't see any receiving props right now for the running backs in this game, which I think is interesting. Obviously, Antonio Gibson went out of the game with an injury there right at the end of the half. Brian Robinson Jr.'s prop is locked. Gainwell's prop is locked. Miles Sanders' prop is locked. So right now, nothing on running back receiving props. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, we're showing value on Quez Watkins under. Now, again, they're going to start with the ball here. So if Philly does score, then Quez Watkins under is going to be in play. I actually think this is a situation where I do want to go ahead and bet Quez Watkins live under. And here's the reason. Philadelphia isn't in must pass mode right now. And if they score, they'll be in running mode later. So this is a very good opportunity, I think, to take Quez Watkins under because they don't need to throw it right now. They can still play to their run game, right? They're about a 48%, 50% running team, whereas a lot of other teams pass more than they run. Philly's close to 50-50. So I'm going to actually go with Quez Watkins under 10.5 receiving yards. Let me real quick double check some other books to make sure we're at the same number here. So let me check receiving yards on DraftKings, for example. Yeah, 10.5 there as well. I see 10.5 at FanDuel. So let's go with FanDuel minus 114 for the under on Quez Watkins, 10.5 receiving yards. We have his median at 8.6 for the rest of the game. Now, where is that total projection? We haven't projected 14.5 yards per reception. So basically, if he catches one, we're probably going to lose this, but we're not really favoring him to catch one. He's got 0.6, but so like 50-50 chance here. But there is also a probability, a significant probability that he actually, because it's 14.5 yards per reception, that's an average, but his median is going to be much lower than that. And you can actually see that here. His mean projection is 9.2, but his median is 8.6 for the rest of the game. So 10.5 is the prop. 8.6 is his median projection for the rest of the game. Let's say 8.5. So I wouldn't bet it any lower than 10.5. And it just moved to 8.5. Good job, everybody. Well done. We maybe the books are watching this show. I don't know, but it is now 8.5 because I think all of you just hit it while we were saying that. So let's pat ourselves on the backs there. Good job, everyone. And now let's move to rushing yards before we get into any. Also, yeah, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. But let's real quick move to rushing yards. We've got 5.5 for Gainwell. Miles Sanders, we have 31.5. Jalen Hurts, we have 34.5. Brian Robinson is locked because we don't know the status of Antonio Gibson. So the Washington Commanders rushing yard props are locked. Now we're showing value on Jalen Hurts under, and I actually think this is a good under spot as well because again, they're not forced to run here. Or sorry, they're not forced to design things for Jalen Hurts here. They can still play their normal game. So in a normal game scenario, Jalen Hurts under makes sense. But they are starting with the ball, so I don't really want to touch that yet. And we are showing value on Miles Sanders over and Kenneth Gainwell over. So again, I think we can go Miles Sanders over here. And I feel very comfortable with this over. So 31.5 rushing yards, Miles Sanders over is what we are going to take. All it takes is for Philadelphia to score a touchdown here, and we're going to be right back in the situation where they should be feeling really comfortable with their running game. So we're going to take over 31.5 for Miles Sanders rushing yards. Just moved to 32.5. You guys are doing amazing. Well done. I love it. We've moved the books, I think, on this one today. So let's, again, pat ourselves on the back for moving the books here, I think. And then again, we want to make sure we look at this first possession for Philly because if they do not score, we're going to take the live under in it. Probably, I would say, obviously we still want to make sure they haven't inflated or deflated the number. And if they don't score, probably going to go, if Philly does score, then we're probably going to go with Taylor Heineke over on his passing yards. So 2 bets already made. To recap, 2 bets we've made. Miles Sanders over 31.5 rushing yards and Quez Watkins under 10.5 receiving yards, and 2 bets to watch depending on the Eagles' first possession. So unless any last-minute questions come in, that is going to do it. Let's just real quick and check and make sure. I don't see any questions here. So we'll wrap it up there with Bet What Happens Live. We're going to see you again on Thursday for Thursday Night Football to kick off Week 11. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and